What if I told you Samsung is quietly working on a brand new Galaxy Z Fold that could completely change how we think about foldable phones and maybe even beat Apple to the punch? Because right now, the leaks, codenames and hidden animations are all pointing in one direction, a wider, more practical, more tablet-like foldable that actually makes sense for everyday users. Not just another spec bump, not just another Z Fold iteration, but a potentially brand new category people are calling the Samsung Galaxy Widefold. In this video, we're breaking down everything we know so far about Samsung's rumored Wide Fold, the design, the codename, the software clues, how it stacks up against the Galaxy Z Fold 8, the Honor Magic V6, and of course Apple's first foldable iPhone. So stick around, because there are some serious leaks, buried animations, and a lot of strategy behind what Samsung is doing here. Let's start with what we actually know. First, the name. Galaxy Widefold is probably not the official name Samsung will use. It's just what the tech community has started calling it, because every credible leak points to one key idea. This thing is going to be noticeably wider than the current Galaxy Z Fold models. For months, we've been hearing whispers that Samsung is developing an entirely new Galaxy Z Fold device with a completely different form factor. This is not the Galaxy Z Fold 8 we're expecting later this year. This is something else. A wider, more tablet-like foldable that feels closer to an actual iPad-style experience than a tall, narrow phone. Think of it as Samsung's direct answer to Apple's first foldable iPhone, which is rumored to use a similarly wide inner display. The timing is not an accident. Samsung has owned the foldable market for years, and there is no way they're going to let Apple stroll in with an iPhone, fold and steal the spotlight without a fight. So what makes this wider Galaxy Z Fold concept so interesting? The main selling point is usability when unfolded. With a wider aspect ratio, you're looking at a more comfortable, desktop-like web browsing experience, better video watching without awkward black bars or cramped content, a truly tablet-like feel. For reading, productivity, and multitasking, current Galaxy Z Fold devices are impressive, but let's be honest, they can feel a bit tall and narrow when you're trying to multitask or consume media for long periods. You get this remote control vibe instead of a true mini tablet. A wider version could fix that problem completely and finally deliver on the promise of a phone that becomes a real tablet when you open it. Now, let's get into the technical leaks. According to multiple reports, Samsung is developing this device under the codename H8, with a reported model number of SM-F971U. That model number fits right into Samsung's established naming convention for foldables, which adds credibility to the idea that this is a real, in-development product and not just a random concept. But here's where things really get interesting. The team over at Android Authority managed to find a hidden animation buried deep inside the One UI 9 APK files. This animation is designed to show app continuity, basically how an app transitions from the cover screen to the main foldable screen when you open the device. On its own, that sounds standard, but the aspect ratio shown in this animation is much wider than anything we've seen on the current Galaxy Z Fold lineup. It doesn't match the proportions of the Z Fold 5 or the expected Z Fold 8. Instead, it suggests a new, more square or 4.3 style inner display, exactly what you'd expect from a Galaxy Widefold concept. Now, to be clear, this animation doesn't reveal the full industrial design. We're not seeing cameras, bezels, or hinge details, but it does give us a very clear clue about how the software is being optimized. And that's almost more important. If Samsung is already testing UI behavior and app continuity on a wider foldable layout inside One UI 9, that tells us one thing. The hardware development is already well underway, and Samsung seems to be pretty confident about this device's chances. Internal reports suggest Samsung expects to ship over 1 million units of this wider foldable after launch. That might not sound like a lot compared to Galaxy S series numbers, but for a brand new form factor in the foldable space, it's a very ambitious target. You don't plan for 1 million units if you think it's just a niche experiment. You do that when you believe you've got something that can appeal to mainstream buyers. So why are people so excited about a wider foldable? Because most current foldables, even the really good ones, still feel like compromises. Too narrow and tall when unfolded, awkward for split-screen multitasking. Weird aspect ratios for videos and games, just a bit off when you're trying to do real work. A wider fold like this rumored Galaxy Widefold could solve a lot of those complaints. It would feel more like using a small tablet instead of stretching a phone screen. Imagine opening your device and having a layout that feels closer to an iPad mini than a stretched-out remote control, but Samsung isn't operating in a vacuum here. The foldable market is heating up fast, and the competition is getting very real. Let's talk about Honor and their upcoming Honor Magic V6. Honor is about to drop what could be one of the most aggressive foldable flagships we've seen yet. The Magic V6 is rumored to pack a massive 7,150 mAh battery. That's bigger than a lot of thin and light laptop batteries from just a few years ago. For a foldable, that's insane, and it doesn't stop there. The Magic V6 is also expected to support 120W fast charging, which would be another industry first for a foldable phone. Imagine plugging in for just a few minutes and getting hours of extra usage on a big, bright, foldable display. That's a genuinely useful upgrade. In a recent consumer interest poll, the Honor Magic V6 actually managed to edge out Samsung's Galaxy Z Fold 8. Let that sink in for a second. For years, Samsung's Z Fold line was basically the default choice if you wanted a flagship foldable. Everyone else was seen as a niche alternative. Now, brands like Honor are producing devices that consumers are actively more excited about in some markets, and the Magic V6 isn't just about battery and charging speeds. The leaks point to a Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 chipset, a 200-megapixel main camera 3x optical zoom, and a design that could be even thinner than the already impressive Magic V5. That's a serious spec sheet, and it shows just how fast the foldable space is evolving. These aren't fragile prototypes anymore. These are full-on flagship devices with top-tier cameras, huge batteries, ultra-fast charging, and premium materials. We're expecting to see the official Honor Magic V6 announcement at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona sometime between March 2nd and 5th. So Samsung knows very well that the foldable conversation is about to blow up again. Which brings us back to Samsung and this rumored Galaxy Widefold. According to Korean outlet ET News, Samsung is planning to release this wider foldable this summer, right alongside the Galaxy Z Flip 8 and the Galaxy Z Fold 8. That would mean 3 major foldable launches in a single season: the compact clamshell, the classic book-style fold, and this all-new, wider form factor. On paper, that sounds ambitious, even risky. But strategically, it makes perfect sense. Why? Because Apple is coming. Apple's first foldable iPhone, often referred to as the iPhone Fold in leaks, is rumored to feature a 4.3 aspect ratio for its inner display. That's a much more tablet-like, wider layout than what we see on today's Android foldables. If that leak is accurate, Apple is clearly aiming at productivity, reading, and media consumption rather than just making a tall, foldable phone. Samsung knows this. They've watched Apple reshape entire product categories before, so the strategy seems clear. Beat Apple to market with a wide, tablet-style foldable and establish that category under the Galaxy brand before the iPhone Fold ever hits store shelves. If Samsung can launch the Wide Fold in the summer, they'd be out in front by at least a few months. Apple usually announces new iPhones in September, which would give Samsung a comfortable head start in marketing, reviews, and user feedback.